Welcome back to my channel. My last video I shared with you the method that I use for replacing the protective strap to the drone once we finished using it. In this tutorial, what I thought I'd do is demonstrate how I replace the cover to the gimbal housing and the camera. Now, if we look at the cover itself, we see there are two main parts to this. There are the hooks at the front, and there are these two protrusions at the back. So I will call these the hooks and these the clasps, or the clasp. Now, my concern is that these protrusions, the clasp, the two prongs that comprise the clasp, look fairly delicate to me. I'm not sure how strong or how tough this plastic is, but my concern is that after a period of time these parts can become brittle and eventually snap. Now, with that in mind, the method that I've devised is to place minimal pressure on these parts, and therefore to reduce the likelihood that they will break. Okay, and that's what I want to share with you. Now, what I tend to do is to replace the gimbal cover after I've secured the blades. The reason for that is that, as far as I'm concerned, this is the most delicate part of the drone, and I want to be certain that I'm not going to be distracted when replacing the cover. I don't want to accidentally cause some damage, and with these blades flopping around here, there is plenty of room for distraction. So what I like to do is to get the protective strap on first. So, as per my last video, this is what I will do. Put it on the back of my hand, get these blades sorted out first, take the strap, put that bit under my hand, get the clasp in first, and then that down. And oh, incidentally, it's a lot more fiddly here. I should point this out. Because the gimbal cover isn't in place, there's nothing to stop this going forward. So what we need to do is to make sure that it's caught not moving backwards or side to side. We can't rely on it not going forward because the gimbal cover isn't in place. So I just mentioned that. But we get that down, pinch, flip, so the camera is now facing towards me. I get these blades here sorted out first, followed by those. That falls neatly into place, pinch, and I've done everything correct because that's lining up, the clasp is lining up neatly with the hole, and I can just push that in, and that is now secure. Right, so now we can turn our attention to putting on the gimbal cover. Now, what I like to do first is to get the hooks in place and then have that tilt back. Now, as we can see here, and I don't know if this happens to you, but it happens to me every single time, when I do that, the gimbal has been jogged so that it's, I don't know if you'd be able to see it through the cover, but it's at an angle. It's not flush like that, it's like this, and it's not allowing that to come back. Now, I'm worried that if I force it, is going to put some pressure onto the gimbal housing and cause some problems. So what I do is I gently tease that into place, and I sometimes using my thumb here, and I just make sure, and you'll feel it, there's a definite bit where the gimbal aligns neatly in place so that it's horizontal with the front of the drone. And then you know you're okay because there's no problem at all now with getting that to fall backwards like that. Now we're here. Now you could at this point, and I'm sure many of you do, just simply press down on that and it will snap into place. Again, I'm concerned that by doing that, eventually you're going to cause a fracturing of one of those two protrusions. So what I like to do is get my thumbnail under there, under the clasp at the back, and just putting a little bit of pressure. I'm using a pinching motion between this finger and my thumbnail. This index finger is simply holding that down. But using a slight pinching movement, my thumbnail towards my middle finger to push that down. And you didn't hear a click there because there was no click. What that's done is that's helped ease those two prongs under the housing, and as far as I'm concerned, that's placing less pressure on those two protrusions, and I'm confident that they will survive a lot longer than if I just simply press and click them into place. Okay, so again, I'll just demonstrate that in reverse. When I take the cover off, I get my little finger, my fingernail under the housing, middle finger at the front, that index finger just holding it into place, and then again, pinching movement. There's a slight snapping there, which I'd rather have avoided, but it was less than it would have been if I hadn't used a pinching movement. So try it again, get the hooks in first, let that fall back. Now that's fallen back, it's a rarity, it's fallen back without the gimbal getting skew whiff, but let me try and get it so that the gimbal isn't like that. Let me try it so that it's, there we go. Right, so there we go. The gimbal is not sitting nicely, so I lift that up slightly, use my thumb to maneuver it so that, and there, again, it may take a couple of goes, but there's a definite point at which the gimbal gets in place so that the cover can come back without you having to force it. And so I haven't clipped that into place yet. I'm going to put my little finger under the clasp, my middle finger at the front of the housing, this index finger just simply keeping it in place, and I'm going to squeeze. And there's also a slight pushing movement of my hand towards the front of the drone, and that just helps flex the plastic enough to allow those two prongs to clip under the housing without any pressure whatsoever. Okay, so apologise again if I'm teaching some of you to suck eggs, but for those of you that either don't have a method for replacing the gimbal cover or find it too fiddly so that you don't replace it at all, which, stop doing that, make sure you do replace it every single time, or you are one of these people that just simply hooks it in and clips it in and don't think anything about it, maybe you'll give this method some thought and start employing that in future. Okay? I've still got some pretty bad weather out here. It's a little bit too windy. I did think about taking the drone up today, but there's just slightly too much wind and a little bit of rain in the air. So I thought, no, hang it. I'll wait until the weather smartens up a lot more before taking it out. I am getting withdrawal symptoms. I do want to get out there and take some more footage for you. And I'll look to do that as soon as I can. But in the meantime, once again, thank you for watching.